Hello everyone. In this session, we are briefly going to discuss about what operators are and what are the different operators that there are. Like we are going to discuss briefly about what arithmetic operators are, comparison and logical operators are, along with assignment and membership operators. So we are going to extensively use all of these operators in most of the programs that we are eventually going to write. Okay. So what exactly is arithmetic operator or what exactly is arithmetic operation here? As the name itself suggests, we are performing certain mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? So we have these special symbols that we are going to use in order to perform all these mathematical operations that we have discussed. So all of these special symbols are nothing but your operators. So you basically use these operators along with operands in order to do the necessary computation. Like let's say that I'm just adding two different numbers here, 2 and 3. And 2 and 3 here are nothing but operands. So we call them as operands, and plus here, which is a special symbol that we are talking about, is nothing but your operator. So we can go about doing that simple computation of mathematical addition. And 2 and 3 here are nothing but operands as we have discussed. And we can basically extend this to any number of operands. We can use any operator as well. Here I'm using subtraction operator along with three different addition operators that I have used here for all the given operands. So it's going to compute all of this and then provide as a result. Okay. So similarly, we can perform mathematical operation, mathematical multiplication operation like we have done. We can also raise 2 to the power of 3 here, which is the exponential operation that we have done. So we just did 2 to the power of 3, where the base value here is going to be 2. The base value here is 2, and the exponent that we have considered is nothing but 3 here. I can change this exponent value to any value. So 2 power 10 now gets evaluated to 1024, right? So we also can divide two different numbers. So this is our regular division, which is always resulting in a floating point number. And hence we call this as float division. The same division, if we are using a different operator like what we are using now, so I'm using this operator in comparison with float division operator that we have used earlier. So this is nothing but your integer division. It's always returning an integer value, which is a floor operation that we expect on the resultant value of 2.66. So when you are dividing 8 with 3, you expect a value of 2.666, right? So obviously in integer division, when you are using a different operator like this, and what we expect is a value or a floor operation that is applied on this resultant value of 2.66, which results in integer value of 2 here. And that's what we are observing. And hence we call this as integer division or floor division. Okay. Please understand the difference between these two different mathematical division operations that we have done just now. Okay. We also have these modulus operations, which we are trying to evaluate if a particular number is going to be an even number or odd number. Whenever you observe a remainder of 0, then the numerator is going to be an even number. Right? Let's say that if I'm considering an odd number and applying a modulus operator here, and we observe a remainder of 1, this indicates that 11 is going to be an odd number. So now you understood the different significance of using modulus operand here, right? Modulus operator, not operand. Operands are nothing but these values. Okay. So modulus operator is going to help us understand what the remainder of that particular division is. The remainder of division can be used for any mathematical understanding. Let's say that our understanding is to see if the numerator that we have considered is an even number or odd number. You can perform that operation. Okay. So we have covered most of these mathematical operations that one can perform using arithmetic operators, right? You can also make use of this particular module called math. Math again is a built-in module. We can also look at the contents of this particular math module by using dir function so as to understand what are the different mathematical operations that one can perform using any of these functions or attributes that are defined here. Okay. Let's say that I'm going to make use of power function and look at 2 to the power of 3. So we essentially have performed this activity by using this operator, double star operator, which resulted the same value, right? You can also do the same by using this function that math module would offer us. You basically can look at applying a floor operation to any of the value like this, any of the floating point value like this. You also can apply a ceil operation now, which gets rounded up to 3 here. So you can also do a regular round operation for any given floating point value here. Okay, we do not have round operation, so that's okay. We have a regular round function that's available outside math module. Okay. So these are the various arithmetic operations that one can perform using arithmetic operators here. So these are the operators that we have been discussing so far. So this is an inbuilt module with which you can perform some of the operations, some of the mathematical operations like what we have discussed. So we also have various other operations like product, which is nothing but the multiplication of a list of values that you are having. You can check the remainder of a particular division that you are performing, take the square root of a number, tan of a number, or probably you can also look at applying logarithmic transformation to any given data that you are having. You can also have some other approaches, some other functions like is infinity or is nan or something, right? So we are just going to check if any of the values that are provided within your iterable is going to be a missing value or not. Let's not talk too much of technical details here because we have not yet covered most of it yet. Okay. So what are comparison operators now? So comparison operators, just like arithmetic operations, are used to carry out certain operations. Here, let me define two different variables called a and b. A holds a value of 10 and b holds a value of 20. Now I am trying to validate if a is greater than or equal to b or not. So that's going to result in a Boolean value of false because a is not greater than b here. Similarly, you can also check for if a is less than or equal to b or not. This is going to result in a value of true because 10 is less than 20, right? So these are comparison operations. You can also check if 10 is equal to 10 or not. So this is completely different from the assignment operator that we have already dealt with. Equal, single equal is nothing but your assignment. You are trying to assign a value of 10 to any given variable. But running this command or running this statement is going to return a syntax error stating that you cannot assign a value to a literal. You always can assign a value to a variable. This is assignment. But this is comparison. So 10 is double equal to 10 indicates that you are just trying to compare if 10 is same as 10 or not. Right? The value of C that we have stored earlier is going to be 10. You also can check if C is 10 or not. Okay. Similarly, you also can check if C is not equal to 10 or not. That's going to result in a value of false. So all of these conditional expressions that we are trying to evaluate are necessarily going to be used in most of the control flow statements. Like let's say that I am writing a simple control flow here, checking if A is less than or equal to B. Right? The value of A is 10 and the value of B is 20. So obviously, whatever you are trying to evaluate within this parenthesis is turning out to be true. When it is true, it always will execute whatever statements that are present within this particular if block. Let's write it as true. Let's write it as false now. Okay. And that's it. Now it's printing true basically because we know that A is less than or equal to B. This returns false basically because A is not greater than or equal to B here. You can also change the statements or whatever value that you have provided within the print function here. State that A is greater than B, greater than or equal to B. Right? Similarly, you also can write another string value here stating A is not greater than or equal to B. Okay. So this is a simple control flow statement that I have written by making use of the comparison operations that we have just performed. Okay. Cool. So just like comparison operations, you also have logical operations that we can perform. So logical operations basically would try to evaluate multiple such conditional expressions. Like let's say that A is greater than B was one of the conditional expressions, which is separated by this particular operator called AND operator. AND operator here is one of the logical operators. We'll also try to evaluate if C is equal to 10 or not. Or probably we'll see if A is less than B and C is equal to 10 or not. Then it returns a value of true because we know for a matter of fact that A is less than B. The value of A was 10 and value of B was 20. So 10 less than 20 is always going to result in a value of true. The value of C, as we know, is already 10, and 10 when compared with 10 is going to result in a value of true. When both are true, using your AND operator, it always returns a value of true here. Using AND operators, let's say that this is your conditional expression 1 and this is your conditional expression 2. So this is your 1 and this is your 2, right? So when 1 turns out to be true and 2 is true, then you will get a result of true. If one of them is true and the other one is false, then you're always going to see a false value because you're checking for both and indicates that both of these have to be true. If any one of them or both of them are false, then you'll always get a resultant Boolean value of false. So this is for AND. For OR operation or for OR operator, you basically have true being returned if one of them turns out to be true. If both of them are false, then it will return false. You can simply go about changing this particular conditional expression to C not equal to 10. This returns a value of false since you are using AND operator here. If I'm changing this to OR operator, now you get a value of true. Because we know that this particular expression turns out to be true and this turns out to be false. Since one of them is true, it's always going to result in a value of true now. These are the two different conditions that we have tried to evaluate, right? Cool. So what are assignment operators? Let's say that I'm just trying to add a value of 1 to existing variable called a. I'm going to add a plus 1 and assign it back to a and print a. This is how you perform addition of any given value to an existing variable, right? So instead of reassigning this back to a, I'm just simply doing plus equal to 1. And now check the value of a. It's going to be 12. It added a value of 1 without reassigning that back to the variable a here. So that's the significance of assignment operators. So your right hand side operand is always being added to your left hand side variable here, right? Just because you're using plus operator here. If at all you're using multiplication operator, like multiplication operator, and then obviously when you check the value of a, it's going to be the same because 12 multiplied by 1 is going to be the same. If I'm using the right hand side operand as 10 and now the value is going to be 120. I believe now you have understood what assignment operators are. You can have any operator here. I'm just using exponent of 10 here in this case. Exponent of 10 is going to result in this value, right? 120 to the power of whatever it is, right? 120 to the power of 10 is what we have performed now, right? So that's the same value. Okay, cool. So what are membership operators? So membership operators are specifically used with iterable objects. Like let's say that list is an object. So we have not covered about lists, but we have introduced to lists earlier in one of our earlier sessions. The list is a collection of certain numbers here in a more simpler terms, right? List is a collection of different elements. In this specific case, we are having the same data type values that are present throughout. Okay. Now, whatever data that we have as part of this list object, we are going to validate if this number 3 is present in my list or not. Since 3 is present in my list, you are getting a resultant Boolean value of true, right? If 3 is not present in, or probably 30, I'm just trying to evaluate if 30 is present in my list or not. So 30 in my list is not going to result in a value of true, but it's going to result in a value of false here because 30 is not present in the list of these elements here. Okay. So this is how you can use membership operators. You can also change this to not in. It will return true now. So not is like negation operation to what you are actually observing. Okay. So we have covered most of the operators that we are supposed to discuss. We have looked at what arithmetic operators are, what comparison operators are, logical operators, assignment operators, and membership operators. So as we cover more and more concepts in Python, like looking at what lists are, what string objects are, what tuples are, what sets and what dictionaries are, all these sequence data types, if we are going to eventually understand better. So you'll put all of these membership operators more into practice then. Okay. So that's all in this particular session, and thanks for watching.